told your friend you're not okay? And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Marcelo Vieira da Silva Jr., a prolific fullback who wowed the Bernabeu crowd and thrilled football fans all over the world, has finally bid farewell to the club of his dreams after a 16-year stay at the Spanish capital. He came as a youngster full of potential, started his career under the shadows of Roberto Carlos. Many expected him to provide the similar stunning output as his predecessor, and after 546 appearances and lifting 25 trophies, becoming the most decorated player in the history of the Los Blancos, one can certainly say that Marcelo was one of the acquisitions that Real Madrid will fondly remember and cherish. It wasn't an easy journey. It was a career where Marcelo had to be patient at first. He then had the glorious days, and eventually he was subjected to the role of the bench. It was a roller coaster ride for the Brazilian fullback, but just like all good things come to an end, Captain Marcelo had to wave goodbye and ended his trophy-laden career with plenty to be proud about. So in this video, we'll roll back the years and look at how Marcelo ended up with Real Madrid. We'll talk about his early life, the challenges he faced when he arrived at the biggest club in the world, and we'll of course talk about the memorable moments and the invaluable contribution that this Brazilian legend made in the Whites of Madrid. So without further ado, let's get started. Born in the city of Rio de Janeiro, Marcelo's romance with the ball would first start with his early years in futsal. It is said that his grandfather Pedro was his biggest backer and supported Marcelo in his dream of becoming a professional footballer. He first started out with a futsal club called Helenico. He played there and grabbed the attention of a few clubs, and then finally in Fluminense, the young Brazilian would get a chance to showcase his talent. He played futsal till the age of 15, and after having made a strong impact on the manager, he was promoted to the first team and was asked to play football. The change was a bit difficult for Marcelo. He was separated from his friends and had to adapt to playing a ball game a bit different from futsal. His struggles continued as he received very few minutes, and as the frustration started creeping in, there was also a moment when Marcelo told his grandfather that he wanted to quit football. At this point, it's crazy to think that one of the greatest fullbacks of all time was so close to quitting the game, but as destiny would have it, soon things would get better for the Brazilian. And talking about the early years of Marcelo in Madrid, the Brazilian joined the club as an 18-year-old in the January transfer window of the 2006-07 campaign. He was signed for a transfer fee of 8 million euros. Remembering his debut, Marcelo apparently thought that he was traveling to Spain for a potential trial, but when he reached there, he was surprised to know that Real Madrid had offered a deal then and there. Recalling the moment in an interview, he had said, "I thought Real Madrid were bringing me over to take a look at me, maybe do a physical. I came over with my future wife, my grandfather and my best friend, the four of us and a GPS. That's all we had. The only other person in Brazil who knew where I was going was my father. He didn't want to announce to everyone he knew that I was going to Madrid to play for Real, because who would have believed it? He didn't believe it himself." And here Marcelo also admitted that he was taken aback when one of the staff told him that he needed a suit and a tie the next day for the official unveiling at the Santiago Bernabeu. But assessing the circumstances under which Marcelo arrived at Madrid, he was brought in to be a successor of Roberto Carlos in the long term. Announcing his arrival, Ramon Calderon had said, "He's a young player who brings a lot of freshness in the squad. We're very happy because he's the pearl that half of Europe wanted." It's also worth noting here that Sevilla were one of the serious suitors of Marcelo before the mighty Los Blancos inquired about him, and when little Marcelo came to know about this, he wanted nothing but to play in the Whites of Madrid. In his early days, however, he had to spend a lot of time on the bench. There's also some suggestions from within the club to play him in Real Madrid Castilla or to send him on loan to develop as a player and get in sync with the rhythm of Spanish football. Roberto Carlos was already occupying his position and Marcelo was surplus to requirement, but the youngster made the tough decision to stay back and fight for his minutes. His decision was also influenced by the fact that the coach Fabio Capello wanted the youngster to train with the big boys, and here we also have to highlight the important role that Roberto Carlos played in helping Marcelo to settle down in a new team and a new country. Roberto Carlos was personally mentoring him. He helped Marcelo adapt to the tactics, and not only that, he used to also invite Marcelo over during Christmas, as both could not travel to Brazil due to the busy fixture schedule. Their friendship eventually bore sweet fruits, and Marcelo remains grateful for the support that Roberto Carlos showed to help him succeed in his early days in Madrid. But moving on, Marcelo made his debut in a 2-0 defeat coming off the bench against Deportivo La Coruña. His debut start was handed by Fabio Capello against Racing Santander, which ended in a defeat as well. But speaking about his performances individually, the fans would get to witness flashes of his brilliance. Young Marcelo had the monumental task of replacing a legend who in the eyes of many was the greatest fullback of all time. It was quite natural for a youngster to have some moments where he would not be able to replicate the qualities of his predecessor. Similarly, there were a few moments where Marcelo was not able to showcase all his qualities. He was still a very young boy after all, and the entire Madrid fan base was expecting great things from him. He was at times at the end of a few years, which tested the mental grit of young Marcelo, but slowly and steadily things started to pick up. In the 2007-08 campaign, the new coach Bernd Schützer handed Marcelo the chance to win over and convince the Bernabeu crowd. With the legacy that he used to live up to, he was met with disgruntled voices when Marcelo at times had struggled to handle his own section of the left flank. But things would improve and Marcelo would end the campaign playing decently as Madrid retained La Liga. Then came the 2008-09 campaign when Marcelo witnessed a few positional changes. Then Madrid coach Juan de Ramos, seeing his attacking flair, had deployed Marcelo on the left wing. In an interview, Marcelo had said that he was surprised with the way the coach used him in attack, but he also emphasized that he very much enjoyed the change. He loved going forward and getting involved in goal-scoring chances. In the subsequent season, Madrid had a new manager once again. There was the policy of hiring and firing managers at the end of every season, and this time Manuel Pellegrini would come in to end the Champions League drought. As for his impact on Marcelo, he attempted to make Marcelo cautious of his defensive responsibilities, but at the same time he also gave enough freedom to Marcelo to work his magic in attack. Under the new boss, Marcelo played much more frequently, bringing pace and versatility on the left side. He was enjoying his time on the left, taking all the chances to link up with the attackers up front, and in the 2009-10 season he would end up with 9 assists and 4 goals, which were stellar numbers for a fullback. But moving on to the era when Marcelo truly established himself as a sure shot presence in the starting 11, it was under Jose Mourinho that Marcelo would play some of his best football. Even till date, he has high regard for the former Madrid manager for his guidance in making him a better player. But it's also worth noting that it was during Mourinho's stint that Marcelo had to fend off competition from Fabio Coentrao, who was brought in for 30 million euros in 2011. Marcelo had to keep looking over his shoulder with the new addition and had to be on his toes, but as we saw Marcelo would win over Jose Mourinho, it was a very important piece in a counter-attacking setup. He would swiftly move into the attacking spaces, and during this time, Xabi Alonso would take care of the spaces left behind. We also saw the partnership between Ronaldo and Marcelo continue to blossom. It was a friendship which gave excellent results to Madrid. We can't really speak about Marcelo and not talk about Ronaldo, because the duo on the left was pure entertainment for the football world. Both would combine well to show off the skills, Marcelo with his technique and Ronaldo with his goal-scoring instincts so often would absolutely make a mockery of the opposition on the left-hand side. And as we saw, Ronaldo and Marcelo became very good friends both on and off the pitch. But coming back to Marcelo, as the years went by, Marcelo became an integral part of the starting 11. He had to wait 8 years to reach a Champions League final with Real Madrid. His role under Carlo Ancelotti in 2014 was taken notice by many football pundits. Soon he was on the front pages of magazines which started to recognize him as the best left back in the world. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to start the Champions League final as Ancelotti had a few doubts regarding the fitness condition of Marcelo. At the same time, Coentrao had shown some good defensive displays as Marcelo spent his time on the sidelines. Ancelotti had to make a call and he opted to start with the Portuguese, but at halftime Ancelotti couldn't resist the urge to put on his first choice left back. Madrid obviously clawed their way back in the game thanks to the game-changing header of Sergio Ramos. Bale took the lead and then Marcelo scored the third, which practically sealed the deal for the Los Blancos. His goal is a bit underrated, but nevertheless Marcelo played a vital role in Madrid, enjoying a splendid season in 2014. Then came the era of Zinedine Zidane and Marcelo was promoted to the vice-captain position in the 2015-16 campaign. Tactically speaking, he was also vital for the Los Blancos' change in fortunes in the Champions League triumph that year. The main alteration incoming coach Zinedine Zidane made to stabilize the team was to sacrifice one attacking midfielder, usually James Rodriguez or Isco, for defensive midfielder Casemiro, but that loss of attacking oomph had to be compensated by somebody. Marcelo's advances on the left was a solution, and he spent more time on the left than all players but Toni Kroos and Luka Modric over the course of that season. Marcelo would also play a big role in the Undecima Champions League final. He was one of the scorers in the penalty shootout. Again, his goal was overshadowed by the likes of Ramos, Ronaldo, Bale and even Lucas Vazquez, who bravely was seen spinning the ball on his index finger before converting his first penalty in the shootout. But nevertheless, Marcelo always was a team player. As the years rolled by, his stature in the football world kept growing. He kept entertaining the Madrid fans. He showed exemplary ball control, the quality of his crosses, his movement, his ability to get past defenders all aided Real Madrid to a great extent. He would then have the opportunity to wear the captain's armband. It was a matter of great pride for Marcelo. In one of his interviews, he had expressed how he felt being the captain of Madrid. He had said, "The best moment for me was when I felt like the fans, the people here, the president and my teammates considered me as one of the captains of the side. I have fought and been through a lot, made a lot of sacrifices, but you can't put a price on being one of the captains at Real Madrid and hearing people calling you Cappy." And from those words, it's quite clear that Marcelo enjoyed wearing the captain's armband, and it won't be wrong to say that during his time, he carried out the responsibilities of a captain very well. He was a mediator when things were boiling on the pitch. His words were highly regarded in the dressing room as well, and he also seemed to have an easygoing personality who tends to spread positivity amongst his peers. Even in the latter years when Marcelo wasn't receiving a lot of game time, he was very professional and helped in keeping a good atmosphere in the dressing room. He helped the youngsters in the squad settle in. Even on the pitch at times, we would see him give tactical directions to the likes of Vinicius, Rodrigo and the other youngsters, which certainly helped in improving the gameplay. So overall, looking back at the years of Marcelo, it truly was a delight to watch the Brazilian magic week in, week out. Prime Marcelo was entertaining and awe-admiring. He defended the Real Madrid badge with great passion, pride and pure Madridismo, and Madridistas will forever cherish the fond memories that this little genius showcased during his long stint with the club. For the moment, we wish him all the best in his future endeavors, and we look forward to the day when Marcelo would return as one of the ambassadors of the biggest club in the world.